I traveled in my van for a month, and in that time I recorded every transaction I made and every penny I spent. That way, at the end of it, I could keep track of exactly how much I spent traveling for a month in a van. 1 month of van life, how much does that cost? That's what I'm going to be showing you today. How much does 1 month of van life cost? But before I get into that, I want to introduce myself. My name is Bronson and this is Fred, my 2001 Chevy Astro van that I converted all by myself into the perfect camper van for travel. And here on the inside, you can see I did a ton of work making this a perfect travel van for someone traveling solo. And for a month, I traveled through the deserts of Utah and Arizona. And I explored a lot of stuff, I did a lot of things, but I went as cheap as possible because I'm absolutely broke and traveling costs a lot of money and I wanted to do it for longer. So I spent as little money as I could during this time. So today I'm gonna be showing you how much I spent while I was traveling, comparing that to rent, and then showing you how you can do it just as cheap as I did it. So let's start out with how much it actually costs. For 1 month of travel, I spent $800. Maybe it was like $819 or something like that, but for the sake of simplicity, we're gonna round it to $800. So for 1 month of travel in my van here, traveling by myself as cheap and minimally as possible while still exploring and seeing everything, I spent exactly $800. Now, for me, when I first added all this up, I was thinking that's pretty freaking expensive. Like, I was kind of disappointed in myself. But then I kind of took a step back and looked at how much renting would cost. So I live here in Utah, so if I was renting, I would be renting here in Utah. Now, on average, on the low end of rent for a single person, rent is about $900 a month. I could go cheaper if I was to live with multiple roommates, but since I'm living in my van by myself, I'm also gonna be renting by myself, theoretically. We'll look at it like that. So $900 for me to rent in Utah. Living in my van was $800, so I'm already cheaper there. Now, if I'm renting, I'm not only renting, but I have to pay for entertainment, I have to pay for utilities, and I have to pay for food. Now that's 3 major things that cost a lot of money on top of that rent already. So let's just say $1,600 a month if I'm living in Utah, renting an apartment. Now, living in the van is half of that. That $800 includes everything from food, gas, entertainment, insurance, data, Wi-Fi, everything. Like, everything I spent, I kept track of, and that was $800. So if you're one of the people that are wondering if van life is actually cheaper than renting, then yes, it is. If you want to travel in a van, you're legitimately going to save money compared to renting. It's kind of crazy you can go travel around and see the world rather than staying in an apartment and save money that way. You know, you don't expect that, but. So $800, solid, flat, $800, that's actually a lot of money. So you might be asking yourself right now, where did I spend that $800? Like I said, I live super minimally, so I didn't spend money eating out, I didn't spend money on things that I really didn't need. I'm gonna go show you a sheet and show you all the things that I did spend money on, and so you can get an idea of how I spent money and, you know, where I budgeted my money for. Like I said, I kept track of all of my transactions and all the money I spent, and when I got home, I added up all of those things, and I built the paper. So, travel costs, boom. Gas, I spent half of my money on. I spent $407 on gas while I was traveling. This Astro van may be like the coolest van you've probably ever seen, guaranteed, but she's hungry for gas. Like, it gets, I think, 15 miles per gallon, so when I'm traveling around and driving a lot, I'm burning up money real fast. And $407, like I said, that's half of my money that I spent just on gas to get around. So that leaves me with another $400. Where did I spend the other $400? Well, I spent it on food and entertainment, basically. So for the total 30 days going to the grocery store to get my meals, I spent $149. I spent $149 on food, plus I ate out once, and that was $3. So total was $149 for 30 days of travel for my food. Now, I cooked every single night for myself, meaning I went to the grocery store, I budgeted my food and planned out meals, meal prepped like crazy, and cooked every single night, planned it all out, spent very, very little, and I spent 150 bucks on food. I feel like that's pretty freaking good. Like, you can go eat out 10 times and easily spend that money. So yeah, I think I did pretty good on that. That's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Entertainment, I spent about $30. And for entertainment, I mean pretty much getting into like state parks and stuff. I got into a few state parks that unfortunately required money, so I had to pay them. And that ended up being about 30 bucks, which really isn't bad considering that I went to a lot of places. For the most part, most entertainment was free. I mean, think about it. I was traveling and hiking around all the time, so I really didn't need to be paying for stuff that I didn't really need. I mean, I paid for music, I guess that's part of it, but that's all. And then there's the necessities, my fourth category, necessities. I spent $233 on necessities. And for me, personally, that was Starlink, which is $150, and insurance, which is about $68, plus another $15 on vehicle maintenance. So really not terrible, but also a big chunk of change. Total, adding all those up, came to $819, like I said. Really, if you want to live cheap, you can frickin' do it in a van. And some people might not need Starlink. For me, I really wanted to have Starlink, that way I could upload videos, and it was also kind of a way for me to stay connected, but in emergencies. You know, if I was to get stuck on a dirt road somewhere, I wanted a way to be able to connect in case there was no data. And Starlink, I can hook it up anywhere and I'll get service anywhere. So if I was to get stuck, Starlink is kind of a backup just in case if stuff doesn't work out so good. Oh, I almost died right there. So you might be wondering how I actually did this so cheap, because there was a lot of places I could have spent money and I didn't spend money at all. The trick is to just be as cheap as possible. You got to get it in your mindset that you're going to be cheap. So if you're interested in doing van life cheap, you just got to sacrifice, man. You got to get thrifty, you got to sacrifice, and you got to take care of it, man. Some things you're just going to have to give up. For me, that was a lot of entertainment. I just stopped spending things I really didn't need to. Like, food was a giant one. I feel like a lot of people spend money on food when they really don't need to spend money on food. And that's something that I just didn't do anymore. I just gave it up. I just stopped spending money on food. But then there's also times like showers. I mean, on the road, you don't have a shower. I didn't take a shower often. A lot of times I had access to a shower, but to take a shower, it was like 20 bucks. I mean, I can't afford that. I had a budget and I couldn't spend $20 for a 10-minute shower, you know? I ended up taking 3 showers in that 30 days. Now, I did also go swimming often, and I was able to clean myself during that. And of course bathrooms, I cleaned myself. But for a full-on hot shower, 3 of them in 30 days. So less than 1 per week. Yes, that is gross, but my skin was also a lot healthier than it's ever been before. But besides that, you just got to sacrifice some things that you really don't want to sacrifice. So now that you've kind of seen my budget and how I did things, you might be wondering how you can make this cheaper. Honestly, it'd be kind of hard because I did spend money very rationally, but there's still a way. Starlink. You really don't need Starlink. I didn't use it that often. I'm glad I had it when I did use it, but honestly, $150, it's expensive for it, especially for the amount I've used it. It was nice for uploading my videos, but honestly, that's the main thing I used it for. Other than that, it was kind of just for convenience. If you were to cut that out, you could be at $650 a month for traveling. That's way better. For me, the next time I travel, a way I can make it cheaper is I will be meal prepping way better. I noticed when I went to grocery stores that were in small towns, food was way more expensive. I mean, of course, that's expected, but it was more expensive than I expected. You know, I was thinking maybe like a buck or two more, but there was one specific store, and I can't remember the name of the town, but it was a really small town out in southern Utah. Like a can of tuna. I ate a ton of tuna. Normally at like Walmart, it's like a buck. It's just a buck. Like, I think it's 99 cents for a little package of tuna. At that place, it was like $3.50. So seriously, $2.50 more for a can of tuna. Like, that was all the prices of everything. They were just raised. So the next time I travel, which will be here in the next few weeks, I will be making sure that I get all of the groceries I need and prep all of my meals way better in the towns that are bigger because their groceries are cheaper. I probably spent way more than I needed to if I would have just paid attention to that a little more. But unfortunately I didn't, so I spent that money. Oh. Now, traveling is actually pretty dang cheap, like we just went over. I mean, 800 bucks, traveling is cheap. But there's one thing that I feel like not a lot of people are going to say because they want you to keep watching their videos or something. But that is the startup costs. The startup cost for this van was a lot more than just 800 bucks a month. To build this van out, it cost me $10,000. Not to mention all the money that I put into things adding on to it afterwards. I'd assume I'm around $11,000 or $12,000 at this point. And you know what? That is quite a bit of money. And getting started, this is expensive. It's seriously, I mean, it's expensive. So a lot of people feel like they can just get out there and start traveling. And the truth is, there is going to be some startup cost. Maybe, you know, there's always ways you can travel. You can always get in the car and go travel. I mean, I've seen it on Instagram and all the time before. People are traveling in like a Honda Civic and stuff. So it's totally possible. It's just if you're willing to do it or not. Honestly, one day I'd love to go buy a truck or a car off Facebook Marketplace and just take it on a road trip and see if it makes it. It's so fun. So basically, $800 can get you traveling in a van for a solid month, no problems. Now, you do have to be cheap and there are some crazy startup costs, but overall, end of the line, boom, solid, done. Vanlife is cheaper than renting in 2024. Kind of crazy. I always thought that was kind of a sham, but it's true. Currently, I am in my hometown working for a few weeks. That way I can be able to travel again, make some more money. And in about 2 weeks from now, I will be hitting the road in my van here, Fred, and we'll be heading towards Death Valley National Park. So go hit that subscribe button. That way you can follow me and Fred on our adventures down into Death Valley National Parks and all the other adventures along the way. It's going to be crazy. We're going to see some cool things. Thanks for watching, y'all. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you got an idea of how much van life legitimately costs in 2024. Thanks for watching.